Welcome to Everything CPA and private equity, where we unpack the evolving relationship between accounting firms, private equity, and other strategics. I'm David Wolfskehl, a partner at Whitman Transition Advisors.
And I'm Phil Whitman, CEO of Whitman Transition Advisors. And we've chatted with more than 150 private equity groups. We've actually closed over 40 transactions with those private equity groups. And we're bringing you firsthand insights from the front lines.
And whether you're exploring your first deal, putting your toe in the water, refining your strategy, we're here to guide you with real stories, expert advice, actionable takeaways. Let's dive in. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Everything CPA and Private Equity, where we're here to educate leadership teams on all the exciting opportunities, applications by those opportunities, and to introduce you to people in this industry. Today we're going to do some predictions for 2026 and beyond. And, if we look back at 2025, lots of good things happening. And we believe many of those will continue into 2026 and beyond. So Phil, why don't you start with a prediction and we'll kind of go back and forth a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful to be here with you, David, as we get ready to close out 2025. Kind of hard to believe. Seems like it was just New Year's Eve. And, not to be disrespectful, but this is sort of like we're 2 days away from when the proverbial fat lady sings, and it is what it is. Boy, has this been an amazing year for CPA firms. I think we're going to continue to say there's never been a better time to be a CPA firm. So now let's get on with some predictions. I mean, I think there's exciting times ahead for private equity, those that got in early, those that are just coming in now. But first and foremost, I think we're going to see several additional of these constellation models. If you're not familiar, when I say constellation models, the CREATs and the Ascends, where they're planting a flag in different geographies across the United States, running the firm separately, but with a common back office. And I think we're going to see several of these that recently entered the market achieve a run rate or total gross revenues of 200 million or more.
That's amazing. I just think about how long it used to take to be 15 million and 22 million and 30 million. Yeah, Prager Metis is certainly a good client of ours, and they were very acquisitive, and it took them a long time to reach their bulk. And now these firms, and it's very successfully to reach that bulk.
Yes. 10 years to go from 14 million to 120 million. And if you ask Glenn Friedman, the managing partner, he would tell you that we had a significant contribution to enabling the firm to do that. By the way,
fast growing.
That was very fast growing. I think the only person who did more deals than Glenn Friedman back then was our good friend Joe Cooperman. But one of the things I do want to do, I want to give a shout out to Glenn Friedman, coming to you from your very good friend, George, right? But in any event, George says hello. For those of you that don't get it, maybe I'll let you in on it at the end of our show. But we look at CREAT, almost 500 million under the leadership of Jake Sloan and Frank Zhang. We look at, and obviously Steve Stangner, the CEO, but then we look at what David Wurzbacher has done at Ascend, and almost 600 million in 3.5 years.
And if we look at the two of them, right, both hugely successful and both hugely different in their philosophy and mindset. And I think, one of the things that you've been talking about lately is 31 different flavors. And I think CREAT and Ascend are both the right solutions for some firms, but not the right solution for every firm, right? And here we have two big players, and they're much different, and their deals are much different. And what makes people excited is different between the two of them. And yet we have two super successful. So when you talk about 31 flavors, I think CREAT and Ascend is a good example of that. Both really successful and both very different.
It's interesting, David, because now that you mention it, we put together and perhaps We can have Lorraine and Jennifer put that in the chat section of some of our podcast, the 31 flavors that are available out there. And I would tell you, for every one of those 31 flavors, I could take a different private equity group or family office or pension company, and I can fill 31 boxes with 31 different ways that these deals get done. You know, rollover equity, top co, local co. I mean, we've talked about all this stuff. Go back, look at some of our prior podcasts. You will be educated, but we'll be talking about this as we move forward. But
Well,
we are going
I
to
think
see.
that's really one of my predictions, right? Is that people will see the buckets of money, they'll hear about the multiples, and they will have no clue about the nuances and what truly makes a really good deal and what's necessarily the differences between deals. I think this education is going to still be so critical. When people ask me what the multiple is, as the first question every time, I think the same thing. You're asking the wrong question because you don't care what the multiple is. You care about what the total enterprise value is, right? And it's about what is the value, not what's the multiple. And we've seen many, many deals where the higher the multiple wasn't the higher total economic value. And if all you're thinking about is the multiple, again, I believe you need to continue to educate yourself. And these deals are so highly nuanced, it takes a while to understand them. So that's my prediction. Education is still
Absolutely
going to be
right.
critical.
And we are an educational first organization. This is not about hammer and nail and getting something across the finish line. It's about education. It's kind of amazing. We worked with a $7 million firm up in the Tarrytown area. I'm giving them a shout out because, they're going down the road, have a signed LOI. They were perhaps the most educated client that I have worked with. We took them through. We were their Sherpa. And when they sat with the many different opportunities, they had a sense. They knew that, this one was Rocky Road and that one was mint chocolate chip. They knew top code versus local level. They knew all these things and they knew what to expect as it related to working capital. I mean, it's just amazing. Uh, and
And
to
they still need
educate,
it.
yes, absolutely. David, yes, definitely education. I think 2026 is going to be the year of the tuck-in. And what that means is lots of competition because there are groups out there that some of those 2 and 3 million and 4 million and 5 million firms, they're not viewing them as tuck-ins. They're viewing them as foundational firms and building around them. And imagine if you were a $2 million firm and you said, I love what I've been doing. I love running and I want to continue running. And we got a legacy behind our name and our culture. And imagine doing a transaction, taking chips off the table and being able to keep your name. But in any event, the year of the tuck in. And that competition is going to be fierce. Every 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, $20 million firm is being sought after as either a tuck-in or a platform firm by the hundreds of strategic investors looking to break into our profession. And David, as you might be aware, 400 or less firms have participated in this to date. 400 out of 44,500 firms. Now, we know 35,000 of them are sole owners, many of them with revenues that private equity wouldn't be interested in. But even if you took the 10,500 firms that have two or more partners, 400 out of 10,500, we haven't scratched the tip of the iceberg. But it will be the year of the tuck in.
I also think, and you take a lot of this, new players are going to continue to come, right? You've met with and you talked about education first. So you met with over 240 private equity firms. Some, many, we decide not to bring to the market. Some we have, we have one that's probably already created over $60 million worth of top line. And sometimes new players bring new technology, new mindsets, and sometimes they're aggressive and bring additional dollars to our clients. So we're going to continue to meet with new folks so that when we find that diamond, we can bring it to our clients. And, every 2 weeks, our whole team goes through a presentation by a private equity firm where they go through their deck. They get asked hard questions by our team. And so we invest a lot of time and effort so that we can bring the right solutions to the sellers and the clients so that they can reach their goals. So new players going to continue in the
New
marketplace.
new players, and I think we're gonna see with some of those new players a desire to specialize or do roll-ups of ancillary services. It might be valuation, it might be, technology driven, it might be, R&D tax credit or all sorts of tax credit focused. But we are gonna see niche specialties blossoming out there. CFO, the office of the CFO, fractional CFO work. We're going to see roll ups. We're also going to continue to see acquisitions by private equity groups of outsourcing organizations, just like we saw, Springline do a transaction. I believe it was with Infinity Globus earlier on when Ascend did a deal with Sapient. So I mean, I honestly think there's so much specialty that is going to be desired by certain groups, and they're going to compete with every other roll up because if there's a specialty opportunity, firms are going to want to see it. And I mean, just by way of example, David, we're working right now with a very profitable organization that does bank collateral examinations. It's an advisory service in the banking arena. Wow, specialty banks, lots of interest, lots of interest.
And interest, even when it's non-annuitized revenue, as long as there's consistent revenue, as long as we can see a pathway. But non-annuitized revenue is okay. And it's a conversation, right? It's different than if you're doing tax returns, but certainly still significant value there.
Hey, David,
So
I
I
have an eight. You want to go? Throw one out.
so I was going to say, I think some firms are starting to plan for their future, right? And what I mean by that is whether they're doing a transaction today, thinking about doing it in a year or two, or want to remain independent, they're starting to professionalize how they run the organization. So whether you're going to remain independent or you're going to sell, the more dollars you have at that bottom line. If you're not going to sell, you get to keep them and invest those dollars in what's important to you. If you are going to sell, you're going to get 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times every dollar you increase EBITDA. And we're starting to see firms that are planning to sell instead of just saying, today's the day and let's go make it happen. Firms planning on increasing their EBITDA, increasing their total enterprise value.
Yeah, if I wait another year and I start making myself more profitable, I'll ultimately get a more significant total enterprise value. So, especially for some of those young folks out there. So, I think one of the things that we're going to see, David, and this one might be up for debate. We can ask Dave Kells, who runs the independent CPA firm podcast. I think 25% of firms that are today saying they're going to remain independent or we're fiercely independent. I think many of them are going to get the proverbial offer that they can't refuse, and 25% of them will take a strategic investment, whether it be minority investment or a majority investment. But it's going to be very, very difficult for a firm to remain independent unless they've got a capital stack and unless they've got a Sherpa to help them do that. So I do think we're going to see significantly more. As a matter of fact, I believe next year alone, we could see the numbers go from almost 400 to, I'm going to say 600 or 700 firms by the end of 2026 that will have taken an investment in private equity.
And I think that this is also the year where firms start to expand their services. Now, we talked about specialty services, but I also think firms are going to start expanding into non-traditional CPA things, wealth management, investment banking, mortgages, things that their clients need and things that they can add value to their clients and add dollars to their bottom line. Many of these firms, I think that was always the plan, but they wanted to get the bulk of the core practice areas first. And this is the year where we're going to start expanding those services to some non-traditional CPA stuff. And now you're on mute, I think, Phil. I can't hear you.
You can hear
Oh,
me.
now I can hear you.
Okay. I'm glad you can hear me now. I'm going to adjust my microphone. Okay. Hopefully I'm good now. I think we're going to see the birth of a lot of new firms. Believe it or not, there's some press out there that is driven by people that simply aren't fans of private equity. Some of those folks, when their firm does take private equity investment, are going to parachute out and they're going to start their own firm, or they're going to grab a partner from here or there. And I think we are going to see the birth and the proliferation of firms falling out of some of the private equity transactions. Now, I think it won't be long until they find out that it's rather difficult to remain independent, to compete for talent, to compete for merger opportunities. But in any event, I do believe we're going to see a proliferation of new firms.
And that's really no different than when it was CPA to CPA firms, right? Every merger, you'd hear, oh, I see so many partner resumes, right, in the world. And look,
Yes,
in any merger, there's some winners and there's some losers. What we're seeing is there's a lot of satisfied people and there's some dissatisfied. But I think it's really no different than it was CPA firm to CPA firm. And you'd hear, oh, all these partners are unhappy. And it would be 8% of the partners would be unhappy. And I think it's very similar. The vast majority of people with these mergers or acquisitions, however we're going to label them, are happy, and there's always going to be some outliers. Also, some of these PE firms, when they talk to us about talent, you might be seeing resumes from their firms. What they tell us privately is they're upgrading the talent. So you might be seeing a resume and thinking, oh, people are fleeing, and those people might have been asked, right, or incentivized to go.
that is
So,
correct.
Phil, why don't you do one more and we'll wrap up here?
Yeah, and that's great. I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention firms like Eisner Amper and Cherry Becker. At the private
Maybe.
equity conference back in November, it was clear that everyone's expectations are that 2026, some are saying the year of the flip. It might be the year of the continuation vehicle for some of them. Some of them might flip, but we do think that going into year 4 and for some year 5, Eisner Amper, Cherry Becker, Ascend, Crete, we do expect something to happen with those that were on the scene very early. And who knows? There might be a couple others that some interesting new opportunity comes along and they take it. Nevertheless, robust year ahead of us. Just a couple fun facts and figures. To date, we've done 47 transactions with strategic investors.
Probably close to $1 billion of top line revenue, perhaps.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. And we continue to explore, because new theses, however you say that word, keep coming out with some great people behind them. And at Whitman Advisory, we are here to help. We are helpers first, educators, and would love to be your Sherpa if you're planning the journey, and you owe it to yourself and your partners just to explore, to be the fiduciary of your firm and know what the potential value of your firm is.
Yeah. So if you like what you're hearing, please like, subscribe. If you have any questions, we're here to help, and we love the questions and the feedback we get. If you're a leader of a CPA firm, it's a good time to be a leader of a CPA firm. Think strategically, think what you want to accomplish for you and your team. So I hope 2026 is a great year for all our listeners and for us as well and for our team. And thank you, everybody, and go crush the day.
Happy, healthy new year, everyone. Thanks, David.
Thank you for tuning into Everything CPA and Private Equity. Every episode brings fresh insight. However, there's always more to talk about. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe wherever you watch podcasts. Have a question or topic you'd like us to cover? We'd love for you to reach out to us. Together, we will help you navigate this dynamic landscape so that we can help you achieve your goals. Until next time, keep making moves that matter. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.